Welcome to Superwoman Diaries, where each week we share personal stories and open up about our journeys. At Chasing Brighter, we know that being a woman today is complicated.
We want to get vulnerable. We know that vulnerability is where real connection happens. Get ready to dive deep and connect as we reveal the real and raw moments behind the scenes of our lives. Hi, welcome everybody. If you've been a longtime listener, you know that Kelly and I are obsessed with connection being the key to happiness and a key to longevity. So, what we want to explore today, we are asking you, are your relationships truly fulfilling? It's so easy to feel disconnected these days, even from people who matter the most to us. So, how do we nurture relationships that bring us joy, fulfillment, and purpose? In this episode, we want to create actionable strategies for you. And here's what you're going to learn about: how do you prioritize quality time? How do you practice active listening? And how do you release those relationships that no longer serve you? Now, I have a hard time thinking that you're listening to this episode and you're a longtime listener and you're like, why does connection matter? Because you know what connection matters. But we're going to tell you that studies show meaningful relationships are key to longevity, emotional well being, and life satisfaction. Loneliness is rising right now, and that is
Yes.
increasing because we think we're connected, but it's just a digital connection. We are made of energy. We are social beings. We need to be in the same room with other people. And if you want to know even more, Kelly and I's all time favorite book, The Good Life, tells us all about why and how connection truly matters as a key to happiness. And you'll check out that link in our show notes. When we talk about connection, and I think even tying this to the digital age, this is about really quality over quantity. And so when we think about our relationships, really thinking about depth. I was just at a party this weekend and I had a friend who was there and we were talking about there's all these people and it's hard to sometimes talk in a big group where we're more like one-on-one people. So I found myself and I noticed others while I was there, just like how you when you're in a big group in a big party, it's hard to have that deep connection Yeah.
where you're like maybe having these like multiple like one-on-one kind of conversations. And I thought that was a really interesting like way to look at how people like work the room. But really when we talk about our relationships in a day-to-day basis and the people that we're with, this is about depth. It's not just how many you have, it's truly about having those deeper, meaningful relationships where you can go beyond talking about the weather and talking about politics or whatever else there's going on.
Yeah. We'll be right back. I think that Warrior Strong Wellness is really on the cutting edge of what is going to help us with our mind, our body, our gut. The collagen's great for gut, joint, bone
Mhm.
care.
I love the collagen bone broth. It's got protein in it and it's got collagen. It helps me feel good, especially when I'm not feeling so well. Plus the protein, which every woman is not eating enough protein. The other product that I absolutely love is the Pure Organic Ashwagandha Max supplement.
Mhm.
It provides adrenal support. It balances energy and mood, helps with nervous and immune health. Taking two of those in the morning really helps regulate my stress response and I sleep better. So if you are interested or would like to know more about Warrior Strong Wellness products, check that out at warriorstrongwellness.com and use code Chasing Brighter for 10% off. And now back to the show. We're going to talk about three key ways to have deeper connection. We're going to talk about prioritizing quality time, active listening, and letting go of relationships that no longer serve you. So, with prioritizing quality time, we talk about this a lot. Schedule connection time, right? We're very busy, we have a lot going on. Put it in your planner, put it in your calendar. I was really good for a while, weekly walks with my good friend Teresa. Being with Teresa is very energizing and feels very supportive. And so I like to try to have time with her one on one. And so I have to block it out. If you want to have more emotional intimacy with your intimate partner, scheduling weekly date nights. I know, Kelly, you've talked about this in other episodes. You and your husband have Friday time together, right? Where every Friday you guys have time for connection.
Yeah, I have a fair amount of scheduled events with that. My regular coffee group on Friday mornings, which is a group, and then I have another group I scheduled some coffee moments with. Coffee seems to be a thing.
Yeah.
But really, even with that, if you have we a lot of us have a lot of friends and connections that we don't spend a lot of time with. And I do find there are people who, if I don't spend a lot of time with them, as time goes on, I think about them less and maybe don't I'm not like fond of recent memories with them, like diminishes. And then I spend that time again with them. I'm like, wow, that was really great. And so really this idea of scheduling that time, but also when you're with them, be present. I think that is sometimes my interactions with some friends where
Yeah.
maybe it's me, maybe it's them, but we've got so much going on. I'm just not mentally there.
Mhm.
So you really want to try to set boundaries with phones and other distractions that you can give your undivided attention. And that also can mean maybe you're not at a good headspace in a certain day that you can't meet with them, but you need to spend time with them in a frequent thing. So it's not just like blowing them off. It maybe
Yeah.
is, hey, can we meet tomorrow? On other moments where it's you're not in the right headspace, you got to lean into it because
Yes.
those moments are the ones that matter and they help get you back.
And that's where sometimes, although, like, I know when you said you're at a party and you had a few conversations, but sometimes a 5-minute heartfelt conversation can be more impactful than hours of distracted time. And so that just goes
Yes.
to show you how being present and not distracted is really important when you are prioritizing that time.
So you're making time for connections and you're making that a priority. And the next thing is you're meeting with them, right? So, how do we practice active listening? How do we really start to get fulfillment in those conversations? And so, this is the art of truly hearing others, fostering empathy and trust. And so,
Mhm.
really, truly listening to them, focusing on what
Yeah.
they're saying,
Yeah.
even focusing on what they're not saying. But this is avoid interrupting, avoid multitasking, and really thinking about while they're talking, processing what you're going to say in response as well.
Yeah. And I think reflecting and validating these are such like therapy approaches, right? An example is it sounds like that was really frustrating for you. It sounds it's such a therapy tool of reflective listening, right? It sounds like whatever. It sounds like you're really sad. It
And
sounds
I
like
think it's
whatever.
important because a
Mhm.
lot of times when we spend time with people, we really just want to be validated. We don't
Mhm.
want them to solve our problems. And I have this
Yeah.
challenge with my teenager right now where I just automatically go into solve mode instead of just saying, wow, that sounds really hard. And
Yeah.
how can I support you? I think that's the best thing, even as a parent, you can say, or somebody
Yeah.
who's going through a really hard time. But this is about asking those meaningful questions going beyond how are you and what's been happening. It's more about what's been like really energizing for you? What's been lighting you up lately? That's a really fun
Yeah.
question to ask
Yeah.
people. Or what's been bringing you down even to really get
Yeah.
past the basics of things. Sometimes I'll ask people how work has been going and you get into this, oh, and then slowly you can start to eke out
Yeah.
something or what's been going on. Think about different ways that you can ask those questions. But this
Yeah.
is about active listening, like really truly hearing somebody and feeling heard for yourself too.
Finally, we want to get into letting go of relationships that no longer serve you, right? Energy is finite. Releasing toxic or draining relationships is making space for healthy connections. I wanted to take a moment. There is something I sent my friends, and it just made so much sense to me that I had to send it to them. And this woman says, you meet people on the same psychological wound level that you are. And you leave people if you evolve, you will leave people. because you have evolved and healed.
I
And
love
so
that. I
I
love
think
that, Joyce.
that sometimes it is positive to end relationships for that time, right? Because you met them at the same level of hurt, pain, unhealing, like the unhealed part of yourself. Maybe you gravitate toward them. And so I think it's something to think about. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like this toxic, terrible, obviously terrible relationship, but sometimes it's just that you evolve and healed and you're moving on to be with other people who are operating at a different like vibrational level.
Yeah, I think those relationships can be fluid, right? Maybe people who come in and out of your life
Hmm.
at different times as well and return. And one of the things that The Good Life talked about with that in mind is the friendship audit.
Yeah.
And got to listen to that episode if you haven't, and definitely pick up the book if you haven't read it. We absolutely love it. Our episode is great because we try to really talk through the book in a way that if you didn't get a chance to read it and may not ever, you can at least get some of the key
Yeah.
points of it, which is
They have
a
a
really
lot of
fascinating book.
great tips and actions there. What steps do we take when we're looking at a relationship, Kelly?
Reflect on that relationship and ask yourself questions like, is this connection aligned with my values? Does this relationship support my growth and happiness? And I think when we talk about those, there doesn't have to be a right or a wrong answer. I really think it's just important this action of reflection and thinking about, hey, let's set expectations with ourselves in terms of the type of relationship it is.
Yeah.
And that's about really having that honest conversation and determining, is this a relationship you want to continue and continue to invest in? Do you need to limit, set some boundaries? Or is it not fulfilling at all? I definitely have friendships over the years that for a while were great and wonderful. And I just realized they were toxic. They weren't bringing out the best in me. They were resulting in maybe more, I guess I'll just say drama for lack of a better word, but they were more energy depleting than energy fulfilling. And when you're with that
Yeah.
person, it was definitely fulfilling. It was a lot of fun, but then I realized, like, when I walked away and I really reflected on it, like, that actually wasn't it's not a great relationship, and I had to set some boundaries and really limit my time with that person, and I also found out over time, others realized the same thing as well.
With that relationship, did you have any grief or was it hard to let go or did that feel like natural?
I think it wasn't hard to let go, but I had to keep reminding myself why I did it.
Yeah.
And I had to physically not respond to emails, not respond to invitations to things because I was like, I can't. This person didn't know that they were as toxic for me as I did. And so I needed to figure out how to do it in a way that wasn't going to cause any sort of issues on the other end. So it was like a fade. It was like a forced fade
Yeah.
of a relationship. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't so much grieving, but it was really learning to, for myself, love myself enough to let go.
I think that it's not a failure. Endings are part of growth. But I think that taps into what we've been talking about is like not all these relationships are obviously like toxic and terrible. And so for you, what I'm hearing you say is that you were tapping into like your values and recognizing that this relationship didn't really reflect the authenticity that you wanted to have. And sometimes I think about that, like you're saying, if you're with more energizing people more often, I think it becomes more obvious when you're with people who are depleting or the relationship isn't serving you.
Yeah.
So if we go back to the beginning of this episode, prioritizing being with people who are loving and supportive, right? Then it becomes obvious when you're with people where you can't be yourself. Don't you have those relationships that are just so simple and you can't wait to see the person? You don't even worry if they stop by your house, if your house is a mess or what everything looks like because they're just your great friend and everything's so genuine. And
Yep.
so it's like align these relationships with your values. That's what we're talking about. Like for me, authenticity is my value. There was a friend I loved so much. I thought I loved so much. And we were friends for a long time. And I just realized they were never authentic to me or never vulnerable. Everything was
Yes.
always put together. They never had one negative thing
Mhm.
to say about anything in their life. And I just realized after a time, you're like, what is it? What is it? What is it? It was like, you have not showed me beneath the surface of who you are. It's been a surface level relationship, and that's not what I'm looking for. And so for me, one of my core values is honesty and vulnerability and authenticity. Identifying those, what are maybe some off the top of your head, Kelly? What are some of your core values?
Authenticity is huge
Hmm.
for me,
Yeah.
very much. And when you talk about honesty, that's like obvious, like a deal breaker in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For me, it's about people who are kind and really always are coming from a place of love and kindness
Yeah.
too. And it is hard, I think, even for me, like when you ask me that question, I even froze up a little bit, Jess, because I think
Yeah.
maybe I really need to think about what are those things that are important to me. I think as we
Yeah.
are in midlife and a lot of us have kids or careers, we find ourselves in these friendships that are kind of convenience,
Hmm.
frequently occurring people. We see them every day, every week, whatever it is. And take stock of those relationships and see what is serving you well and what is aligned with what feels right versus not. So I think those values to me are also just even about like my view of how I want my life to be and if they have a shared kind of like shared interest and shared understanding of those views. I think this is about really evaluating for us,
Hmm. Hmm.
thinking about those relationships, especially ones that maybe aren't sitting right with us.
Yeah. And I think that we are inviting you to think about a relationship in your life that you would like to nurture more deeply. And what is one step that you can take this week to show up to that relationship with intention?
So when we talk about showing up with intention, this is like really taking that meaningful action, scheduling time, thinking about the conversation you're going to have, and really having that true uninterrupted conversation that you can really connect. And think about when you do that, think about how that felt. How did that feel when you met with that person or you had a conversation over the phone or whatever it was? And so that is our challenge for you. And when we talk about this and just recapping a lot of what we discussed is we want ourselves, right? Intentional relationships require presence, active listening, and alignment with our values. Let go of draining connections and open space for deeper bonds.
Remember, relationships are the heart of a meaningful life.
When we set intentions and nurture them, we not only deepen our bonds, but also we create a life that feels more connected and fulfilling. Thanks for listening today. Don't forget to subscribe so you can hear our latest episodes as soon as they drop.
If you loved today's episode, share with a friend.
Join us each week as we bring you inspiring stories, expert interviews, and actionable tips to help you navigate the challenges and opportunities of midlife. From wellness to personal growth to connection and beyond, we've got you covered.
We are passionate about helping you live your brightest, most fulfilling life. Together, we'll explore new ways to thrive and grow, ensuring that your midlife journey is full of joy, purpose, and endless possibilities.
So, are you ready to chase brighter days ahead? Subscribe to Chasing Brighter now, and let's embark on this exciting journey together.
Find us on Instagram, Facebook at Chasing Brighter, or check out our blog at chasingbrighter.com and follow us. If you want to know more about Kelly and I, read our blogs, find more tips, tools, and resources, check that out at chasingbrighter.com. Thanks. Remember, your best life is just a listen away.